Hi everyone, welcome to my channel and to this short follow-up video to my review of the Canson Me Tint Velvet paper. I gave this paper a pretty glowing review a couple of months ago. Now that I've had a chance to paint some different subject matter on it, I've posted some of it, I've seen some of it finished and framed. Do I still like it as much? Was it worth all of the hype? I hope you enjoy this video. If you do, then please do hit subscribe here and be sure to check out all of my other playlists. So after a couple of months of experimenting on this stuff, I still really like it. I'm loving it for landscapes especially. The texture is so nice to work with. I can either fill the grain of the paper and get nice, smooth, solid marks, or make use of that lovely texture when it comes to painting something like rocks, for example. But I've also tried out some pet portraits on it too, so I know that I can get detail and a convincing softness when it comes to painting furry things. But I will say that the use of pastel pencil on top of my soft pastel pigment is pretty limited. It really does remind me a little of how Hanimal velour paper handles pastel pencil. The dark colours work absolutely fine, but the light coloured pencils really struggle. So in these cases, just like on Hanimal velour, I tend to work a little bit more with the soft pastel sticks and try to minimise the use of pencil, except for the dark colours and using lighter colours around the outer edges of things. But if the reason why you love Clairefontaine Pastel Matte is because you can use your pastel pencils really well to layer up those tiny marks on top of the soft pigment, then you'll probably still choose Pastel Matte. The next thing I've had time to test is how the painting survives during transit or being handled by a framer, etc. I've now posted a few of these on the Canson Velvet paper, and they post just the same as my work on other papers. As long as it's really well sandwiched between firm boards and it can't move around in there, it should post absolutely fine. By sandwiching the piece, I've had very little pigment come off, with just a little amount on the sheet pressed up against the face of the painting, which is normal. I did read some comments online about some people having problems with pigment falling off and some issues with framing, but that's not the experience that I've had. In fact, the paper holds on to the pigment pretty well as far as I can see. But it's always possible to overload or oversaturate the surface of a paper, especially in those first attempts when you're still trying to get a feel for the new surface. But you can see here, even when I'm shaking this piece outside, there is so little dust coming off that even with this abuse, the pigment is sticking pretty well. I'll often do this lightly with a piece before posting it, just to knock off any loose pigment. But I would never do that with a painting on velour paper, for example, which you can see is extremely floppy. And it's one of the reasons why I always recommend that you mount your velour paper before you paint on it. Something that makes it a nice firm board and much easier to handle afterwards. But with this Canson Velvet, I'm not seeing any reason to mount it on something firm. Maybe for a very large painting I will, but its floppiness just isn't contributing to a lot of pastel fall off. It's pretty much behaving like the Pastel Matte paper. So before posting a couple of these to my framer, I was already pretty confident that it would frame easily enough. My framer kindly sent me some photos of his process, and I asked him to give me his honest opinion. He has framed everything for me over the years on all sorts of papers. These two pieces caused him no trouble, one of them being a reasonably big piece of 18 inches tall. So of course, when you try out a new paper, it's important to check that the paper works for you and your style. but also that your paintings on this paper will stand the test of time. Being able to ship the painting and have it handled by different people once it leaves your studio is also important. And now I'm pretty confident to continue working on the Canson velvet paper. It won't be the only paper that I use, as I love to have a variety of papers to choose from depending on the subject that I'm painting. But the Canson velvet paper probably will start to pop up as often as the Hanimal velour paper, Clairefontaine pastel matte, and even sometimes Fisher 400 in my work. But I hope that you guys have had a chance to try it now. I know that it wasn't available worldwide when I first made my review of it. So have you had a chance to try it now? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you'd like to try it along with me on any of the paintings that I've shown you in this video, all of these are available as full-length tutorials over on my Patreon. There you will find a full library of all sorts of different tutorials to help you along in soft pastel. I'll add the links in my description below. But I hope that you enjoyed this short follow-up video to my longer review. I'll add the link to that review here as well in case you missed it. But thanks very much for watching, and until next time, happy pasteling.